From one of the most spectacular wonders of the world on the shore of Lake Toba in northern Sumatra, it's round number one of the UIM Formula One H2O World Championship for powerboating at the inaugural Kopiko Grand Prix of Indonesia. Hi everybody, I'm your host, Stephen Michael. Happy to be back for my 27th straight season, along with my partner of 22 years, ex-world champion, Jonathan Jones of Wales. And we greet you in lovely Indonesia, just north of the equator on a spectacular and warm day, kicking off our 39th year of UIM Formula One H2O powerboat racing. The whole country of Indonesia has come out and embraced this weekend as we feature the majestic northern Sumatra region, which is well known as one of the leading tourist destinations. Now, Jonathan, you've been here for more than a few days. Give me your thoughts. What do you think of this place? I think it's fantastic.
Oh yeah, Indonesia is something special, no question about it. The location where we are is unbelievable. The people, very, very friendly. They've been so welcoming with us, and yeah, it's a great place to race, and I'm sure a fantastic place to come on holiday.
Beautiful, breathtaking scenery. Now, the race circuit here in Lake Toba is so large, it acts more like an ocean. Jonathan, this is one of the longest technical layouts we've seen in the last few years, including a pair of right-hand turns. Why don't you take us around and tell us what you think and what we can expect in this race course today?
As you said, Steve, really difficult track. Come down past the start-finish line into number one, number two. This is a difficult area. We've already seen boats go over there earlier on this morning in free practice. From number two down to number three, that's a right-hander. These boats do not like turning right for some reason. Anyway, you go around there, into four, into five, a little bit dodgy around there. We've seen some rollers coming in from the far end of the circuit. Then from five, down to that right-hander again. Throw it round there, probably pulling about 6.2, 6.3 Gs as you go into 7 and 8. And this is the part where you can really pick up some speed. From 8 to 9, get that boat absolutely flying on top of the water. Just kiss the buoy through 9 and down that long, long straight, down past the start-finish line again.
Weather conditions couldn't be any better. Now, qualifying for today's Grand Prix was canceled yesterday because of high winds and rough water conditions. Now, the field of 20 drivers that came out this morning for an unusual 45-minute qualifying session instead of 3 qualifying sessions that would separate the field and bring down for the battle for pole position. Eric Stark, one of the surprise drivers who came on strong toward the end. He was about in the 8th and 9th place, mired down in the bottom 5, and then all of a sudden he came charging up, had a scintillating time, finished in 3rd. And here's the controversy. Sean Torrente, the world champion, thought he had pole position, but what he did was he exited the course and went around the outside to build up the momentum for the final last lap. The officials saw it, and they threw out his fast time. And then Bartek Marzawak, who thought he was going to start behind Torrente, ended up legally getting the fast time of the day. He did a scintillating 58.21, or 4/100ths of a second quicker than the world champion. So Bartek Marzawak, for the first time in his 11-year career, is on the pole. Let's hear from the top 3 drivers, beginning with the 3rd quickest in qualifying this morning, Eric Stark of the Victory Team, who has returned to full-time racing for the first time in 4 years.
As I would say, I had a lot of problems in the middle of the time trial, and I did 2 good laps. And no, I'm very happy. You know, the team have been away for a few years, and even me. So this is a very good result for us, and even for Ahmed, that doing his first race in Formula One, and he will start 7th. So yeah, I would say like a very decent day for the team.
Yeah, he's got to be really excited. Now, starting second, as we mentioned, the disappointed defending world champion Sean Torrente, who's got to work a little bit today, who thought he had pole position until the officials threw him out because of him short-siding the course on his hot lap that he was getting set to go to set the pole, and he'll start in that 2nd place today.
So I had pole. They took my fast lap. My 2nd fastest lap was still only 4 thousandths behind Bartek, so I'm starting 2nd. It's still a good qualifying and a good position. We just need to improve 1 position in the race and get around Bartek, hopefully safer than we did in charging.
A lot of charging coming from the number 2 and number 3 position. But the Cinderella story of the morning is the man on pole position for the first time in his 11 years as a race driver in his 50th start. It's Polish driver Bartek Marzawak with a time of 58.21, 4/100ths quicker than the defending world champion.
I'm very happy. I wait for this pole all my life. It's really quite big piece of my life. More than 20 years in powerboating, that's finally this. So I'm very happy. No, save the spot. That is the goal. So I will try to make it smooth and go have a good start and save the spot until the finish line.
Yeah, it's interesting that his confidence continues to grow and grow, Jonathan. I mean, he found himself with 2 straight podiums. He finished 3rd, his best of his career in Sharjah in race 1. Race 2, he did even better. He finished in 2nd place.
Yeah, I mean, very, very good drive out there today. He's been so consistent, as you said, Steve. He's already got 2 podiums, and he's got to get that start right, though. He's got to nail it, because Torrente, I'm sure he knows that the start from the pontoon to the first turn buoy is very, very short, so he'll be running a really small propeller, and that'll give Sean tremendous acceleration. Let's hope Bartek has gone for the same option, and he may be able to just pip him. I think if he can get ahead of him into the first turn, then Bartek, we could see him pull away, because he's got a really well-balanced boat out there on the water today.
All right, now drivers from 12 different nations, 4 different continents, 20 in all are ready to take the start of this exciting 39th campaign to the UIM Formula 1 World Championship. Bartek Marziwak, as we mentioned, on pole, the world champion, starting in 2nd. Eric Stark in 3rd, first time back in 4 years. Sami Celio, 2-time world champion in 4th. 2021 world champion Jonas Andersen in 5th. Peter Moran, who's now taken over the lead drive of that CTIC China team, down in that 6th spot. Xander Bergen, who we expect to see a lot of things out of him. And then the rookie, Al Famin, as he is coming up in the 8th spot, ahead of Thani El Quimsy, which is a surprise. The Team Abu Dhabi driver down in 9th spot. Marit Stromoy will start in the 10th spot. And then another rookie, Brett Dillard, out of South Carolina, driving for the 2nd China team in the 11th position. Then Fabio Comparado, or Alberto Comparado, starting in the 12th spot. And then a couple of great French drivers, along with Kali Vipo in the 14th spot. And then the Gilman team struggling along with their 2 Finnish drivers down in the 16th and 18th spot, sandwiched by Brock Cohen, the driver from Australia. And rounding out the field of 20 drivers, the Atlantic team, Eduard Benavente, the most veteran driver on this tour, along with one of the youngest driver on the tour, Ben Jelf from the UK. So quite a good lineup. We've been anticipating this for the last 8 weeks. It's hard to believe we just wrapped the season up 2 short months ago, Jonathan, but the crowd's tremendous. They expect well over 100,000 people here. When we came in here on Monday and Tuesday, the signage was up all over the country, and from Jakarta at the airport all the way here up in northern Sumatra. It's a whole country that's involved in this day of a great weekend of speed on the water. And as we said, it's unusual. Today we're going to run 2 sprint races because of the way the conditions turned out yesterday. We're going to run about 18 laps in race number 1, and then we'll do the same later on today. We will be back at 1500 local time for race number 2. So double points today, very, very important.
It certainly is. At least they know that by getting the points in this race, if the other race we have some issues, the drivers will come away with points after this weekend. And going back to the positioning of the drivers there, another guy that I've been watching quite closely is Jonas Andersen. I looked at some video footage of him actually doing some acceleration tests and things prior to the qualifying, and boy, does he look quick off the line. So although Jonas is a little way down, keep an eye out for that driver, because I tell you what, if he gets a start, he's going to create a problem for these front drivers.
Yeah, interesting with the 14 boat that you're talking about with Jonas Andersen. This is the first time that he has been in this boat in 6 years, Jonathan. He broke his boat yesterday, so he ran it the first time this morning, and he's feeling comfortable knowing that he can still run hard. You're right. We'll see if he can charge his way up toward the front.
Yeah. A couple of other guys to think about out there is Ferdinand Zandenbergen. I've spoken a little bit about him, the young driver from the Netherlands. He's a rookie at the moment, but seems to be doing a great job out there. So as we speak, Steve, any of the top 6 could actually win this race.
All right, less than a minute to go. We hold our breath. All eyes are glued on the start lights, which are out in the middle of the race course. This is 2.2 kilometers around, 9 pins, and they will head off to 2 commitment buoys, 435 meters. And now the 30-second board is being shown. And for the first time here in Indonesia, the last race here in Southeast Asia was back in Singapore in 2005. So we're getting closer and closer. 2 sprint races this afternoon. And we hold our breath as the first row lights, second row lights. The lights go off and they're underway and explode away from the dock. And 10,000 horsepower go racing across 435 meters, now charging their way up toward the commitment buoys. And as they push along the side, Eric Stark trying to make a move. Torrente on the outside and 2. And Torrente is fighting to get himself into that number 1 spot as the green flag is officially out, as the field of drivers come whistling around. Bartek Marszałek trying to stay up into that first place position, and he got a great start. Look at the Polish driver pull away here 10 laps in, or 10 seconds ahead, as he got around turn number 8. Torrente's about 10 boat lengths back. Celio is pushing hard. He started 4th, he's up into 3rd, and then a 2-boat battle between Stark and Jonas Andersen for that 4th place position.
What a start by Bartek Marszałek, the young Polish driver there. He's doing everything he needs to win this race. Came off the line, I think he was running a slightly bigger propeller than Sean Torrente, who seemed to have the legs on him. But as he increased in speed, he had a bigger propeller, more top-end speed, and he was able to get into that first turn just ahead of Torrente and start making his way forward. He's got clear water ahead of him, Steve, for a while. This is where he could really make up some ground.
All right, as you can see, Jonas Andersen trying to push up on Eric Stark, but Stark is able to pull away. Jonas Andersen dropping back. I wonder if the 2021 world champion may have a bit of a problem here, but he comes charging up on the outside. A good battle going on for 4th place, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think that Jonas has definitely got the legs on Stark there, sitting in 3rd at the moment. And you can see that Jonas is on the outside, Stark's on the inside. Jonas seemed to try and get ahead of him in that last lap. He tried to cut inside him, but he got some dirty water. It got rather rough. He had to back off, and Stark is still holding him off.
Stark out there on the right of your screen. Victory team based out of Dubai. And the 36-year-old driver from Sweden back on the tour. First time in 4 years. You got 2 Swedes right there fighting for the 4th. And in the 5th spot, trying to get up into the mix in that 4th place battle, Peter Morin, the driver out of France. But right now, the leader, Bartek Marszałek, he's holding about 2.5 seconds. I noticed that Sean Torrente in the last lap was able to pull out a few boat lengths on Sami Celio, the 2-time world champion. So he's got about a 2-second cushion right now between 2nd and 3rd place as the field comes by. Now remember, this is a shorter than normal race. This is a sprint race. So I'll tell you what, you want to do it all right now early on. There's no waiting for a good time. Right now is the good time, and you got to make hay when the hay is in the barn.
You're dead right, but look at the way that Bartek Marszałek, he's pulling away from the rest of the field, Steve. This is something that we have not seen for a long time. Torrente hanging on in 2nd, but there he is, Bartek Marszałek, sponsored by Olin, the Polish oil company, and they've got to be really chuffed at the performance that he's putting up this weekend. As you said earlier on, Steve, he's already had 2 podiums. He's been knocking on the door for the last 2 or 3 races, and he is driving his socks off out there.
Bartek Marszałek, our leader, starting his 50th race, still looking for his first victory overall. He's got 3 podiums, and he is doing his best to try to make good his escape from the 3-time world champion Sean Torrente, who's hanging right in there. The difference really between the top 5 is not much of a difference in the speed, but the top 3 are really close, within 5 seconds of each other.
Yeah, and the good thing for Bartek now is he's got that clear water for probably the next 5 or 6 laps before he starts coming up against the back markers. So this is where he can really open that gap between himself and the Abu Dhabi driver Sean Torrente in that 2nd slot.
0.3 of a second, the margin for Bartek. He has increased that on the world champion. It's up to 3.15 seconds, the difference between 1st and 2nd. Meanwhile, Torrente has gained a little bit more ground on the 3rd place, Sami Celio, who has dropped back about another ½ second. And then Eric Stark is 5 seconds back of Celio, with Jonas Andersen just a second behind him. So very close, the top 3. Then there's a bit of a split between 4 and 5.
Yeah, Jonas then, he certainly hasn't given up, but he's under pressure from Peter Morin, the French driver, who's pushing for all he's worth. We do know that French boat has got some serious pace out there. Watch out for the number 7 boat in the next 2 or 3 laps.
As we look at Peter Moran, the veteran driver who has replaced his ex-father-in-law, three-time world champion Philippe Shep, who stepped aside. And they have brought on the American Brent Dillard out of South Carolina. The 36-year-old rookie's in the number 8 boat, but all eyes are on the number 7 machine, as this 43-year-old out of Rouen, France, is right up there where he's happy to be up in the point structure. He's in the top 6 right now, as Jonas Anderson and Peter Moran are dropping back just a tad. And Bartek Marzowiak continues to increase the lead about a third of a second every lap over Sean Tarenti, who's desperately trying to stay right there with him.
Yeah, what they've got to watch now, Bartek, is that when he comes up against the back markers, which is going to be in the next 3 or 4 laps, then hopefully he can get through them. It's very important that the back markers are in communication with their crew chiefs on the bank, and they do give these front drivers a gap so that they can get through and carry on with this unbelievable battle at the front of the field.
Yeah, and you can see out in the background all the crowds that encircle this like a crescent moon. There's tremendous amounts of people. Well over 100,000 had bought tickets, and they sold it out in about 23 minutes, Jonathan. That was incredible when the tickets went out on sale. So everybody in Indonesia here this afternoon, this is the first of 2 sprint races, 18 laps, as they fight for their chance to watch speed on the water, and they're getting the world's best drivers here today.
Yeah, you can see Jonas there coming on the inside now, starting to pressurize Stark in that 4th position, Steve. I don't think it's going to be long before. And look, Jonas on the inside, he's running that boat it's his number 2 boat, so it doesn't perform as well as his main boat, which he had problems with that you pointed out yesterday. He certainly hasn't given up on this 4th position. Stark there still running cool. Jonas overshooting the turn boy there, letting that boat run so loose on top of the water. The number 14 boat is pushing for all he's worth.
Yeah, this is the second time he's run this boat in 6 years, believe it or not. So talking with him after qualifying today, he says, yeah, I got to get a feeling for this boat. It's going to take me a while. And right now, 5 laps in, he seems a bit aggressive, and that's great for Jonas Anderson and all his fans that are here cheering him on. He missed the World Championship last year by 10 laps. He had the championship in his pocket. He almost became a 2-time world champion, but for the first time in all of 2022, he had a mechanical problem. He dropped out with just 10 laps to go, and Sean Tarenti, who had been in a tremendous crash, was sitting with wet clothing on in the paddock, all of a sudden realized that, hey, I'm the new world champion.
Yeah, Stark watching him in his mirrors there. As you can see, Jonas comes through the right-hander, takes a tighter line. The problem is, when you take the tighter line, you tend to scrub off a little bit of speed, but he's still there with him. You can see Stark there, turning tight on the boys, watching every move of Jonas. It looks to me like Stark knows exactly where he is, and he knows what to do to hold up the pressure that Jonas is putting on him.
No, looks like Marit Stromoy is dropping out, the teammate of Bartek Marzowiak. Marit Stromoy, who had qualified in the 10th spot, has dropped out. That's not a good sign for Stromoy Racing. But while we watch this battle here, in that battle for 4th place, oddly enough now, Tarenti is shaving that down, the distance between 1st and 2nd. The real estate's getting smaller and smaller. It's now 2 seconds. So he's gained 1.3 seconds on the leader, Bartek Marzowiak, as they get closer and closer here, as we've gone way past the 1/3 mark of this quick 18-lap sprint, the first of 2 races that will determine the Grand Prix this afternoon, and these will count in points. And I'll tell you something, Bartek now needs to just focus, stay on what he needs to do here as you work around some traffic.
Yeah, just looking at the boat there with Bartek there, a little bit off balance as he came through the last 2 turn boys there. The boat a little bit running a bit too loose on the water, but he seems to have everything under control now, Steve. It's still 2 seconds. You can see Tarenti there trying to cut through on the inside, going around a shorter part of trying to shorten the track to try and make that gap on him, but it's still there, 2 seconds as we speak.
Yeah, Bartek got a 1/10 of a second back, 2.11 the difference between 1st and 2nd place. They're closing the gap a little bit closer. It's about 12 boat lengths separating the two. And again, it's a situation of how this young driver who for the first time in his career is feeling the pressure of leading a race. You've done that so many times, Jonathan. Does your mind change when you lead a race and you're in protective mode, or you just keep focusing on the job at hand?
You got to keep focused. You got to keep pushing. You've got to be running at 110%, because that's when these boats are running at their best on the water. But Sean, getting through back markers there, overtaking Duarte Benavente, the Portuguese driver. Maybe it slowed him a little bit there. I noticed that Bartek seemed to get through the back markers a little bit quicker, and you can see that he's increased that gap, Steve, again by just a split second. So at the moment he's still sitting pretty there. That boat running so well in these tough conditions here in Indonesia.
Yeah, it was a bit bad luck for the world champion. You mentioned he got caught up with the Portuguese driver, Duarte Benavente, the oldest driver on the tour. And Bartek took full advantage of it. He got his second back. It was down to 2 seconds. It's back up to 3.3 seconds, the difference. Wow. Yeah. So Bartek got the job done. So we know this young man who is from Poland can figure out that he can handle the pressure of being in a #1 spot. At least he can so far. We're halfway through this race. Sprint race #1 of 2 this afternoon for the Grand Prix of Indonesia.
And I think that they're both built from the same factory up in northern Italy in Como there. But I think that the boat that Bartek has got, Steve, is just slightly longer. And that means that when the conditions get rougher as the race goes on, maybe his boat is better suited. You can see he's gaining again on Sean Torrente in that second. Is he having an easier ride? Is he able to push a little bit harder as the race goes on?
We'll have to wait and see here as we've gone past the halfway point. Over down toward turn #9. Now it's a front straightaway of 520 meters. These are 9 turns, 2 right-handers. Very unusual, very technical in nature. And the drivers really have to focus on their lines, because if you get off line, you're going to lose a lot of time. And again, this battle between 2 Swedes, Eric Stark and Jonas Andersson, continues to heat up down in that 4th place between the 2 drivers, which is now just a matter of a second separating those 2.
I think if Jonas was able to get ahead of him, he'd have a bit of clear water and he'd pull away from him. But as you can see, look, as Stark turns there, Jonas is getting all the wash and the spray and finding it quite difficult to actually see as he tries to improve and close that gap with Stark.
Philippe Shep, there you see second alone. This is his brother-in-law, or I should say his ex-son-in-law out there running, Peter Moran. And the driver from Rouen is starting his 27th race, still looking for his first victory. He's got 3 podiums, and he's a good qualifier, but getting him up there. Now, really, Peter Moran, in the past, he's been 7 top 5s in his last 11 races, so he knows how to finish up in the top 5. He's doing his best to do it right now. He's in the 6th spot.
And of course, we've got to bear in mind that he's running a new boat here this weekend. He has not run it in the past. It was the boat of Philippe Chiap, 2-time world champion. Although I spoke to him after practice and he said it's a lot lighter on the water. It seems to accelerate a lot better, but it's just going to take me a little bit of time to get into the groove and know the limits of that boat.
Wow, the difference in speed between the top 2, as you saw it on your screen a second ago, just 3.9 seconds separating 1-2, and then the cushion between Torrente and Sami Celio, almost 7 seconds. Wow, so it's a 2-boat battle up in the front, and then Celio is pretty much by himself, 5 seconds ahead of Eric Stark, but we're all watching the Eric Stark, Anderson, Peter Moran battle. 3-boat battle for 4th place, and that's only separated by about 2.5 seconds.
Yeah, pretty even Stevens there, isn't it, Steve? There's about a second between Stark and Anderson, and you can see that the French driver Peter Moran trying everything he can. He's on the inside, outside, just trying to close down that gap between himself and Anderson. And again, back markers coming into play, Steve, for these 3 drivers. We could see a change if some of the slower drivers don't get out of the way for 1 or 2 of these drivers.
We talked about 4 different rookies this year fighting for that prestigious Rookie of the Year award. And right now, Ahmed Al-Fahim, who is the teammate of Eric Stark on that victory team, doing well. He's up in the, we take a look, he's in the 8th spot, just ahead of the American Brent Dillard with the CTIC China team, who's in the 9th position.
Yeah, just looking back as well, looking at the first three there, Sami Seljo doesn't seem to have the pace of the two front drivers, does he, Steve? You've got a 2.84 second gap between Bartek and Sean, and then about 10 seconds between Sean and Sami Seljo in third.
Torrente's closing the gap big time, Jonathan. It's down to 2.04 seconds. He shaved a second and a half. Torrente now less than 10 boat lengths, separating 1 and 2 as we work our way down to the final 5 laps of the first of 2 sprint races that we'll have for you this afternoon as we continue to watch that 4th place battle between Eric Stark and that blue boat on your right for the victory team. Jonas Anderson, the 2021 world champion. There's his wife Janie talking to her husband. And it's a full family effort, and neighbors up in Sweden, they all help out in the community. They try to help their buddy and neighbor, Jonas Anderson, the best they can to get him to have a successful season. It's kind of a great little group gathering there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the passion in Scandinavia in general for powerboat racing, especially Formula One or any form of motorsport, is quite unbelievable. And we're back there again. Doesn't seem to be too much progress made with the China team, but trying everything that they can. And
all right, here's Peter Moran. Look at him making the move now, Jonathan, on the inside, heading into the right-hander, sending Jonas Anderson way wide. So the driver from France has moved himself up, and Jonas Anderson looks like Jonas Anderson could be coming slower and slower on the race circuit. He's slowed down. He's still running, but the yellow flag is out. There's a problem on the race circuit with 4 laps left to go. And oh my, this will make it interesting, Jonathan, as one of the Sharjah drivers went over.
Which one is that, Steve?
It's either Ferdinand or it might be Ferdinand.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, Ferdinand Zanderberg.
Oh dear.
The driver from Holland, who last year battled himself to almost getting Rookie of the Year award. This is his 2nd season. He finished 5th in the championship. And for him, he crashed out of the race in Sharjah in his last event.
Yeah, you could see the Osprey rescue team there at hand very, very quickly. The front, they got a drop-down dory. It's an inflatable boat with you can see the front end of it drops down, so that when they recover the driver out of the water, they don't have to pull him in over the boat. He floats into the boat. But looking at him there sitting on the side, Steve, it's okay with him. He looks in pretty good shape.
All right, as we watch the boats coming around slowly. It's interesting. I think if there's one flaw, and this is a whispering, people talking about different drivers in the paddock. One thing they think maybe Ferdinand is missing is the lack of feel for the boat at high speed. Sometimes he just can't control the feel. He's got to learn it a little bit more. And with that, that's his 2nd accident in a row. That's his only flaw, I think. Otherwise, he's pretty quick.
But Steve, you do learn from that. I mean, I remember in my early days when I was racing, I mean, I had quite a few crashes, and it's all down to experience, isn't it? That's the bottom line. And he'll get there. He realizes probably what went wrong with the boat when he had the accident, and he'll learn from that.
Well, we've talked about some of the previous accidents. Let's take a look at a few of them that he went through last year in his rookie season. Here you can see him at full flight, was running well in that race in Sharjah, then barrel rolls it out of turn number 1 real hard as he tried to set the boat, and he dug in on the right spots, and it slid, and then it snapped on him, and over it went, Jonathan. And the Osprey rescue team, his new best friends, came in there and rescued him, brought him in. And another day of wet drawers for him. And then that's not all that he has done here. He's had some wild and crazy times, and then over he goes again. So yeah, he's fast, and as you say, he's on a severe learning curve.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, trying a little bit too hard. Yeah. I mean, what you've got to do is you've got to get into a groove when you're racing these boats, and then you've got to make sure that you can feel everything around you, that the boat is well balanced on the water. And but it could have been that. It could have been just a rogue wave that caught him out there. So because it did yesterday with with Peter Moran. You know, we were talking on between turn number 1 and turn number 2. I mean, he looked very comfortable out there, and all of a sudden then the boat was turned over. So it's a bit like driving a Formula 1 car over a ploughed field. You know, Formula 1 cars, when they're on a track, it's all nice and calm and flat. Yes. But the problem here is that every lap that these drivers go around with these boats, the conditions change all the time. You get the rollers coming in from the far end of the circuit, and it does catch them out from time to time. So that might have been just a bit unfortunate for Ferdinand there, that he was caught out by some pretty rough conditions.
All right, Jonathan, we come back to this reality, our dirty little secret. Why? Because we are at a restart. Why? Because your leader, Bartek Marzowiak, is side by side with Sean Torrente in that battle for the lead that's coming up. And we saw what happened in Sharjah in that early portion of the race, and those two got together, and Bartek was lucky enough to stay flying, and Sean Torrente went flying, nosed it in, and crashed his boat.
Now, they don't know where they're going to restart this race on the track. So they're in communication, these drivers, all of them, with the crew chiefs. And when the UIM official drops the checkered flag, they will not be able to see that, Steve. But when he does drop the checkered flag, the radio men have got to be on the money and tell the drivers to go. Coming around now, 2 laps to go, Steve. This is one of the longest straights. Is this where they're going to restart the race?
Well, as the officials wait to make sure everybody crunches up, he's holding the green flag in his hand. Luis Ribeiro from Portugal, a UIM official. We anticipate the start. Green flag, we're back underway. And less than 2 laps to go. And here we go. The battle for the front is on in earnest. Torrente on the outside, trying to push as hard as he can with Bartek. Forced to go wide. Torrente slides around the corner. Now side by side. Torrente has the inside lane for the right-hander, Jonathan. Oh, let's see what happens. Can this Cinderella story continue for Bartek, or will Torrente end it in dreams and tears for the drive for Poland? And Sean Torrente, the 3-time world champion, with less than a lap and a half to go, has taken over the lead on the restart.
You know, we said a 3-lap dash, and that's basically what it was. And you can see now that Bartek, he just didn't quite get the pace that he wanted on that restart. Sean Torrente pounced on him and took the lead of the race.
Here on the final lap, now we hold our breath with just 3 more corners to go. Sean Torrente now with Team Abu Dhabi is trying to pull away and easily head down into turn number 9. That was the move of the day, and Sean Torrente, your 3-time world champion for Team Abu Dhabi, will circle around, come by the start-finish line, and he'll come across. And Sean Torrente picks up his 12th career victory and leads this championship. And what a great day for Bartek Marzowiak. He'll finish up 4 seconds behind. And Sami Celio with a battle going on with him and Eric Stark. Celio was able to hold off the Swedish driver for 3rd place. Peter Moran finished in that 5th position, and Thaniel Quimsey came charging up from 9th to finish 6th. And wow, what can you say? The restart, it was a gutsy call for Torrente. He's done it many times, and he knew if he could hang in there side by side with Bartek tried to cover the inside of that first turn, but when he realized that Sean Torrente was equal with him heading down into turn number 3, there wasn't really much Bartek could do.
I think that Torrente's boat was set up better for that restart. If you saw the way that when the checkered flag dropped, how that boat accelerated, he had it balanced perfectly on the top of the water. All credit to him. He gave Bartek plenty of space into turn number 1 and turn number 2. But like you pointed out, Steve, he had the inside line then down that short chute into the right-hander, and that's where he took the race away from him. And wow, what a performance, what a restart from Torrente.
All right, as they come around, they'll circle back in, and 18 laps, the first of 2 sprint races that we have for you this afternoon. The next one is at 3 p.m. local, and that is 8 o'clock UTC time, Greenwich Mean Time in the UK. Sean Torrente giving it us all. Look at him standing up and cheering. What a way to start the season. And he is exuberant and he is excited, and so is Team Abu Dhabi. Torrente coming up with what he did last year. He started the season with a victory in Macon in France after Sami Celio dropped out after having the pole, and Torrente took race number 1, and now it looks like Sean Torrente, if everything's legal, will take number 2, my friend.
That's right, but hey, all credit to Bartek Marsalak. He had an unbelievable start. He led this race. He dominated the race up until that last one lap dash where Torrente just got the legs on him coming through number 1, 2 and into number 3. So Bartek, although he's finished second, he must be he has to be happy with that performance that he put on out there today.
All right, as we take a look at the fast lap, looks like Bartek Marsalak had the fast lap of the race with a 1:02.23. And as the boats are getting set to come out of the water, unofficially, Torrente takes a victory with Bartek Marsalak from the pole, finishes in second, led 17 of the 18 laps. Sami Celio finished in third place. Celio started in that 4th place, got around Eric Stark, the Swedish driver, who is back for the first time in 4 years, and he finished 4th. Able to hold off Peter Moran, the veteran driver from France, and then Thaniel Quimsey, the other driver for Team Abu Dhabi, came from 9th to 6th, and along with him Ahmed Al-Fahim, the driver on the victory team. The rookie had a great day, 7th ahead of Brett Dillard from the USA, driving for the CTIC China team from South Carolina. He finished up in 8th. So kind of a nice day for the rookies, 7th and 8th, to make an immediate impression on this series.
Yeah, I think Dillard, I beg your pardon, is going to be really happy with that. I mean, he drove a strong race, a midfield race out there. He's getting used to the boat, and all credit to him, you know, for his first Formula One race to finish in the top 10.
There you see Sami Celio stepping out, the 2007-2010 world champion. Disappointing days for Alec Vekstrom. He didn't start the race. Brock Cohen dropped out very early. He lasted only 1 lap, Jonathan. And then farther down, Reet Stromoy, she didn't last. She was gone after 4 laps. Ben Jelf dropped out halfway through the event in the 10th lap.
Yeah, a couple of guys that we've seen improve in the race is Philip Roms, the Finnish driver. He's up to 9th. So he's be pleased because he's had 1 or 2 issues, engine issues, but everything seems to be coming good for him. So maybe we'll see a bit of an improvement there. Jonas Anderson, very unfortunate. Don't know what happened there, but obviously something wasn't right because he was pushing right up at the sharp end there for such a long part of that race, and then all of a sudden he plummeted down the field, and you know, I'm sure he's not going to be happy with his overall 10th.
All right, we've had a great way to start this afternoon with the first of 2 sprint races. Let's go back and take a look at the highlights of race number 1. 18 laps around this very technical 2.2 kilometer race course with 9 turns, as drivers from 12 different nations took off to start the 2023 World Championship here in Indonesia from Lake Toba, and off they went. And you can see from the back of the field that Sean Torrente got a great start, but it was on the inside that the driver, the 11-year veteran Bartek Marsalak, nosed him to the first corner as they came around a very short 435-meter commitment buoy as they came around the pins, and off they went. And there you can see the difference between Torrente and Bartek Marsalak, and then next to him was Eric Stark starting in the 3rd position.
Yeah, Torrente seemed to have the jump there on most of the field as he took off from the start pontoon, but you could see, to be fair to him, he gave Bartek plenty of space there to get through turn number 1, turn number 2, and the commitment buoys. And boy, what a start by Bartek, though. Look at the lead that he had at the beginning of this race. Yeah,
everybody minding their manners, maintaining their lanes, which is very important. But right away, you can see that Bartek had a 10 boat length advantage as he came down that 520 meter front straightaway, pulling out into an immediate lead, and then it was chase time. as Bartek started to run away from the rest of the field, making good his escape. He got up to about 3.9 seconds on Torrente until Torrente started reeling them back in. Got down to within 2 seconds, and a great three-boat battle going on between Jonas Anderson, Eric Stark, and then, of course, the French driver, Peter Morant. And then the race came to a quick stop toward the very end, the last few laps, as you could see that the driver from Holland, as it was Ferdinand Zanderbergen, crashing out for the second straight race, first of the year. And we had the restart, and the drivers were all set for the restart, and off they go side by side. Torrente on the outside trying to hold his lane as he and Bartek Marzoak went side by side, hull by hull, as they came into the right-hander. Then Torrente had the advantage with the inside lane going into the right-hander, and show was over. That was it. Torrente in the inside had the advantage, pulled away. Bartek slipped a little bit farther back, and with him he was able to hold off Sami Celio, and off they went. And what a great way to wrap up the race.
There could be some changes. The start is under investigation. So was there a boat that jumped the start? I've just been given that by the officials. So we'll just have to see exactly what is actually going on there.
All right, let's go to the race results. They are truly unofficial. We'll hold our breath here, and this is what we have at the moment, but they could ever change. So Sean Torrente at the moment picks up 20 big points here with the victory. Bartek Marzoak finishing in the second place, 4 seconds back with 15. Sami Celio in that third position with 12 points. Eric Stark with 9 points in the fourth place position. Peter Morant with a nice top 5 for him. Then Thaniel Quimsey charging up 3 spots, finishing in the 6th position after 9th. And you see Al Fahim is the driver in his rookie race, ahead of Brett Dillard in the 8th position. And good run by Rams, Philip Rams. He started 18th and he came up and finished in 9th place. A good run for the Finnish driver. Jonas Anderson dropping back after having a bit of a problem at the very end. And then the French driver, you can see that Alexandre Bourgault with the Maverick team finishing in that spot. Then his teammate Cedric de Guin in the 13th position, Cali Vipo, and the Portuguese driver Duarte Benavente in the 15th spot. Zanderbergen, of course, blew over and crashed out. And then Gel finished in the 17th spot, and Reed Strumoy in the 18th position. And then the rookie Brock Cohen in the 19th spot. And then of course, Alec Vekstrom didn't get a chance to start the race, which is really disappointing for the driver who finished in the 4th position of this championship.
Pretty exciting racing though, Steve, out there, I think, wasn't it? I mean, the difficult circuit, difficult conditions, and yeah, just it was nip and tuck there with so many other drivers in so many positions throughout the circuit, and back markers, to be fair, kept out of the way, allowed those lead boats to get through, and we're in for the next race at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and that's going to be pretty exciting because the start of that race is going to be determined by the finishing order of this race. So it's going to be wide open, and I think we're going to see a lot more drivers coming to the fore.
All right, everything is unofficial. Let's take a look at the team results so far here. As Team Abu Dhabi having almost a perfect day with 25 points. Strumoy Racing, of course, with Bartak having a second place finish with 15. The Victory team back in the sport for the first time in 4 years and third with 13 points. And then the Sharjah team with 12. CTIC China team picking up a respectable 10 points. Gilman Racing with 2 points. And then Team Sweden with 1 as we wait for Maverick, Comparado, and Formula Atlantic team picking up their first points of the year. It didn't happen in race number 1 of the 2023 World Championship. As you see the crowds continuing to build up, there's another race, don't forget. Thanks for being with us today for the BRM Watches qualifying. That was yesterday, but today, for those leaving us for our broadcast, this is the first of 2 sprint races, and we will be back. So don't forget to come back at 3 o'clock local time, which is 8 o'clock UTC or GMC time. And we will have the second race of the afternoon. 2 points races back to back. Very unusual. It's exciting. There's 2 sprint races, so don't forget to join us in a matter of 2.5 hours. In the meantime, you can follow all the news by going to our official website, F1H2O, to see if there were any changes in race number 1. And don't forget to stop by. It's been a great day so far. Enjoy your days in your life, and we'll see you back here in 2.5 hours. So long, everybody. From one of the most spectacular wonders of the world on the shore of Lake Toba in northern Sumatra, it's round number 1 of the UIM Formula One H2O World Championship for powerboating at the inaugural Kopiko Grand Prix of Indonesia. Hi everybody, I'm your host Stephen Michael, happy to be back for my 27th straight season along with my partner of 22 years, ex-world champion Jonathan Jones of Wales. And we greet you in lovely Indonesia, just north of the equator on a spectacular and warm day, kicking off our 39th year of UIM Formula One H2O powerboat racing. The whole country of Indonesia has come out and embraced this weekend as we feature the majestic northern Sumatra region, which is well known as one of the leading tourist destinations. Now, Jonathan, you've been here for more than a few days. Give me your thoughts. What do you think of this place? I think it's fantastic.
Oh yeah, Indonesia is something special, no question about it. The location where we are is unbelievable. The people, very, very friendly. They've been so welcoming with us, and yeah, it's a great place to race, and I'm sure a fantastic place to come on holiday.
Beautiful, breathtaking scenery. Now, the race circuit here in Lake Toba is so large, it acts more like an ocean. Jonathan, this is one of the longest technical layouts we've seen in the last few years, including a pair of right-hand turns. Why don't you take us around and tell us what you think and what we can expect in this race course today?
As you said, Steve, really difficult track. Come down.